Hello and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. We've now officially made it through 16 weeks of the NFL season. The season seems to be going by quickly. In week 16, I went 10-6 with my picks, giving me an overall record of 156 and 84. We're really coming down to the wire now. We've only got 2 weeks left of the NFL regular season. Now, let's get into these picks for week 17. Week 17 actually kicks off with 2 Christmas games. First up on Christmas, you have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the 14-1, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 10-5. The Kansas City Chiefs coming off of a victory this past Saturday over the Houston Texans. The Pittsburgh Steelers coming off of a loss this past Saturday to the Baltimore Ravens. I think this should be a very good game and should be a very competitive game. I think that the Steelers defense with TJ Watt against this kind of banged up Chiefs offensive line should be able to do a very good job of containing this Chiefs offense. But I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to get the victory here. So their defense is still playing very well. I think they should be able to really contain this Steelers offense. The Steelers could get George Pickens back for this game, so that would really help in the receiving game. But I don't think it's going to be enough. And offensively for Kansas City, they got Hollywood Brown back from injury. He played his first game this past Saturday. He played well. Xavier Worthy is really, his role is really expanding as his rookie season's gone on, and he looks to be hitting his stride right now, and that's a scary concept. In the running game, Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt are both playing very good football. So I do think the Kansas City Chiefs get the victory here. Next up, your second Christmas game, you have the Baltimore Ravens, who are 10-5, taking on the Houston Texans, who are 9-6. The Ravens coming off of the victory this past Saturday over the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Houston Texans coming off of a loss this past Saturday to the Kansas City Chiefs. Also in that game, the Houston Texans lost wide receiver Tank Dell for the rest of the season. He suffered on a touchdown reception, suffered a dislocated kneecap with a torn ACL, so his season is over. It's unfortunate because that Kansas City game was his best game of the season before he got injured. I do think that Baltimore wins this game. The Texans offensively have been struggling, and now they've been without Stephon Diggs for a while now, but now without Tank Dell, they're down to Nico Collins as the number one receiver, who is a very, very good wide receiver, but they don't really have anybody other than him. They also Joe Mixon, who's very good in the run game with his Ravens defense, is very good against running backs. And offensively, if the Ravens can get Derrick Henry going like they did against Pittsburgh, they should be able to play very well. Lamar Jackson is still playing very good football. He had 3 touchdown passes against the Steelers. So I think Baltimore is just kind of too good of an all-around team for the Houston Texans right now, so I do think that they get the victory here. Next up, on the final Thursday night game of the season, you have the Seattle Seahawks, who are 8-7, taking on the Chicago Bears, who are 4-11. The Seahawks coming off of a very close loss to the Minnesota Vikings. The Chicago Bears coming off of a not very close loss to the Detroit Lions. The Chicago Bears, I don't know what it is, they struggle. Like the first half of games, they are just non-existent. The second half, they come out and they play very well. But I think because of their struggles in the first half, I do think the Seattle Seahawks get the victory here. I think Seattle is still playing very good football, despite the fact they did lose this past week. Jackson Smith and Jigba has been playing very well. Geno Smith has made some mistakes, but overall has still been playing very well at quarterback. Zach Charbonnet, if they can get him really going, if Kenneth Walker's unable to go, plays well when he gets the opportunity. Defensively, they're still a very strong defensive unit that should be able to give Caleb Williams and the Bears offense some fits. So I do think the Seattle Seahawks get the victory in this final Thursday night game of the season. Now, we've also got some Saturday games. First up for your Saturday slate, you have the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 9-6, taking on the New England Patriots, who are 3-12. The Chargers coming off of a victory over the Denver Broncos. The New England Patriots coming off of a very close loss to the Buffalo Bills, in which this Patriots team actually looked very good, but ultimately they had some turnovers that wound up costing them the game. This Chargers team, they continue to play very well. Gus Edwards had his best game of the season against Denver. Justin Herbert continues to play well. Adam Conklin continues to play very well. And this defense is a little bit banged up in the secondary, but I think they still do a very good job. So I do think that the Los Angeles Chargers get the victory here. I definitely think now it's going to be a little closer than I thought maybe a couple weeks ago this game would look. But this Chargers team, their offense with Justin Herbert is just too good. Their defense should be able to contain this Patriots offense with their severe lack of weapons. I think Drake May should still have a very good game, but ultimately the Patriots just don't really have enough around him right now to be beating these better teams in the league. So I do think the Chargers get the victory here. Your next Saturday game, you have the Denver Broncos, who are 9-6, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 7-8. The Broncos coming off of a loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. The Bengals coming off of a victory over the Cleveland Browns. Both these teams have looked pretty good, except the Broncos lost to the Chargers, although they still looked very good in that game. They ultimately just made some mistakes at the end that wound up costing them. And the Bengals have been on very much of a roll lately, especially their offense has, been clicking all season, for most of the season. They continue to look good. Their defense looks like it has been playing better in recent weeks. So I actually am going to pick the Bengals to get the victory here. Offensively, I don't think this Denver team can stop the Bengals. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are too good of a combination. T. Higgins played very well the other week. Chase Brown actually had a very down game against Cleveland, but I don't think that can really continue because he's a very good running back. And Denver, I just don't think they have enough firepower to get into a shootout with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think this game could be a bit of a shootout. So I do think that the Bengals offense can get the victory here, mainly because I trust their offense to score more points than Denver's offense. Now on Saturday night, you have the Arizona Cardinals, who are 7-8, taking on the Los Angeles Rams, who are 9-6. The Cardinals coming off a very close overtime loss to the Panthers. The Rams coming off of a victory to the New York Jets. The Cardinals, in their loss to the Panthers, lost James Conner with a knee injury late in the third quarter. I don't know if he's going to play in this game. And the Rams have been playing very good football lately. They've had back-to-back very sloppy games, but they've been able to pull out victories. I do think the Rams get the victory here again. Offensively, Kyren Williams still playing very well. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, if they can get involved in the offense, it's a very scary offense to deal with. This young defensive line is still playing very good. So I do think that the Los Angeles Rams get the victory over the Arizona Cardinals. Now, let's get into your Sunday games. You have, first off, the Indianapolis Colts, who are 7-8, taking on the New York Giants, who are 2-13. The Colts coming off a victory over the Tennessee Titans, in which Jonathan Taylor ran for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns to really help carry that team to victory. The New York Giants are coming off of a loss to the Atlanta Falcons, in which they really couldn't get anything going. Offensively, Drew Lock threw 2 pick sixes, was getting pressured all game by one of the middle of the road defenses. Defensively, the Giants couldn't really stop the Falcons' offense. So I do think the Indianapolis Colts get the victory here. I think if Jonathan Taylor can really carry the load for them again, they should be able to get a pretty easy victory against the New York Giants. I just can't really trust this Giants team. The Colts defense is not the best, but I think they're going to look pretty good against the Drew Lock and this pretty poor Giants offensive line. So I do think the Indianapolis Colts get out of here with a win. Next up, you have the New York Jets, who are 4-11, taking on the Buffalo Bills, who are 12-3. The Jets coming off of a loss to the Los Angeles Rams. The Bills coming off of a very close victory to the New England Patriots. The Jets the Jets made history against the Rams. They were the first team in 25 years to not punt in a game and score less than 10 points. That is a very Jets statistic. So I do think the Bills get the victory here. I think this Jets team has been struggling as of late. Garrett Wilson sounds like he wants out of New York. He has just not. Him and Aaron Rodgers have not been able to put it together. Aaron Rodgers continually still looks for Devontae Adams in the receiving game. In the run game, Breece Hall is playing pretty good, but hasn't really stepped up to that next level like people thought he would from how he did last year. This Bills team, although they were very beat up in the secondary against the Patriots, they had 3 of their starters in the secondary out, had another one go out in the Patriots game with an injury. I just think offensively, Josh Allen still playing very good football. James Cooks played very, very well against the Patriots. So they should be able to exploit this Jets run defense. So I do think the Buffalo Bills should be able to go out and get the victory here. Next up, you have the Las Vegas Raiders, who are 3-12, taking on the New Orleans Saints, who are 5-10. The Raiders actually coming off of a victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars this past week, and the Saints coming off of a loss to the Green Bay Packers, in which they lost 34-0. And just they did not really look like they could get anything going until late in the fourth quarter when they tried to get some drives going. But I am going to go with the Saints in this game. I think defensively they're still very good. Their offense has a lot of question marks, but the Raiders have question marks everywhere except for Brock Bowers. So I think if this Saints defense can kind of contain Brock Bowers, maybe Jacoby Brissett a little bit, I do think that the New Orleans Saints can get out of this game with a victory. It's not going to be a very pretty game. I think this is going to be one of the uglier games this whole week. But I'm not very confident about either team with their ability to win this game. It's entirely likely the game could just end in a 0-0 tie. But I am going to go with the New Orleans Saints. Next up, you have the Carolina Panthers, who are 4-11, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 8-7. The Panthers coming off of an overtime victory over the Arizona Cardinals. The Buccaneers coming off of a loss on Sunday Night Football to the Dallas Cowboys. The Panthers, Bryce Young played very good against Arizona. And Tampa Bay, their offense, they kept trying to fight back in. They got down early against the Cowboys. They kept trying to fight back in. Baker doing everything he could to keep them in the game. Ultimately wound up losing on a Rachaad White fumble that was recovered by the Cowboys. Last time these two teams played, it was a very close game that went into overtime. This game, I do think the Buccaneers can get the victory. It is in Tampa. Baker Mayfield continues to play very well. Offensively, the Buccaneers are still playing well. The defensively, they're very good. I think this one could be another very close game because the Panthers have really, I don't know what's changed since Bryce Young has come back from being benched, but he has been able to keep the Carolina Panthers in most of their games. So I do think that this one will be very close, but ultimately I think the Buccaneers get out of here with the win. Next up, you have the Tennessee Titans, who are 3-12, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are also 3-12. The Titans coming off of a loss to the Indianapolis Colts, in which they got down very early, but then wound up actually fighting their way back into that game late. Ultimately wound up making the game look very close, but fell short. The Jaguars coming off of their loss to the Vegas Raiders. These two teams played a couple of weeks ago, in which the Jaguars got the victory. I actually think that the Titans win this one this week. They lost a couple weeks ago with Will Levis at quarterback. Mason Rudolph is their starting quarterback now, and he, aside from a couple turnovers, played very well against the Indianapolis Colts. I think he should play very well against this Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Also, this Titans defense, the last time they played very well against Mac Jones. Ultimately, they gave up a late touchdown that wound up costing them in a very close game. This week, I do think the Titans get out of here with a victory. Next, you have an NFC East battle between the Dallas Cowboys, who are 7-8, and the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 12-3. The Cowboys coming off of their victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, before that game even started, they had been eliminated from the playoffs because the Commanders had actually got a victory over these Philadelphia Eagles. So obviously, Eagles coming off of a loss to the Washington Commanders. In that game, Jalen Hurts got knocked out with a concussion. Kenny Pickett came into the game. He actually played well. This offense played very well. They forced 5 turnovers, but ultimately gave up 22 points in the fourth quarter and the second half, and allowed Jay Daniels to throw for 5 touchdown passes. So it could still be Kenny Pickett in this game for the Philadelphia Eagles. But the last time these two teams played, this defense was all over Cooper Rush. They shut down the run game. They slowed down CeeDee Lamb. So I think they do that again. I think this defense can do a very good job of shutting down this Cowboys offense. So I do think the Philadelphia Eagles get the victory here, and it might just be behind the run game of Saquon Barkley. Kenny Pickett making just easy win throws for his receivers. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are still very, very good wide receivers that can make plays for you. And this defense, I think, they can have a very simple game plan and just kind of offensively, and have this defense play like they have been. With the exception of late in that Washington game, I think that the Philadelphia Eagles get the victory here. Next up, you have the Miami Dolphins, who are 7-8, taking on the Cleveland Browns, who are 3-12. The Dolphins coming off of a victory to the San Francisco 49ers, which actually knocked the Niners out of playoff contention. And you have the Cleveland Browns coming off of a loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. And Cleveland, their offense just did not look good with DTR at quarterback. I don't know who they're going to play this week at quarterback. It could be DTR again. It could be Jameis Winston. Could even be Bailey Zappi, who had been on their practice squad and had been their emergency QB for a few weeks, but was their backup last week. He could wind up being the starter. At this point, I just don't know with Cleveland what they're going to do offensively. Miami, their offense looked pretty good against the Niners. Unfortunately, Tyreek Hill had a few drops, but ultimately didn't wind up making a difference because Devon Achane had a very good game. The Dolphins are still fighting to get a playoff spot if they win out. So I do think the Dolphins, because they have way more to play for, they get the victory here over this Cleveland Browns team that has just been very lackluster all season. Next up, you have an NFC North battle between the Green Bay Packers, who are 11-4, and the Minnesota Vikings, who are 13-2. The Packers coming off of their dominant victory over the New Orleans Saints. The Minnesota Vikings coming off of their close victory to the Seattle Seahawks. The Packers clinched the playoff spot by beating the Saints. The Vikings are still in contention for that number 1 seed and to win the division, competing very closely with the Detroit Lions, who they actually played next week. But this Green Bay Packers team has been playing very good offensively. Josh Jacobs has been running the ball very well. Jordan Love is doing a very good job of managing the game. Like, he could do pretty much anything they ask him on offense. Not turning the ball over, which he struggled with early on in the season when the Packers were struggling a little bit. And defensively, they're still playing very well. They're getting turnovers. Now, this Minnesota Vikings defense has also been playing very well. They're the only team that has gotten at least 1 turnover in every single game, and they've got 30 turnovers this season. So this one, I think, will be a very close battle, but ultimately, I think the Green Bay Packers get the victory here. I think Jordan Love hangs on to the ball. They don't turn the ball over much. Maybe they only turn over 1 time, or even not at all. I think that this Green Bay Packers defense can slow down this Vikings offense. And ultimately, I think the Green Bay Packers get the victory here over Minnesota. Now, next, your Sunday night football game. You have the Atlanta Falcons, who are 8-7, taking on the Washington Commanders, who are 10-5. The Falcons right now are in the driver's seat to win their division. It's pretty simple. They win the next 2 weeks. They win the division and go to the playoffs. The Commanders are still fighting for a playoff spot. So Atlanta, Michael Penix got his first start of the season this past week against the Giants. He looked very good in that game. The offense looked to be clicking. I did notice that his receivers had a very difficult time with dropping passes he was throwing. I don't know what the issue was there, but there was quite a few drops. One of them from Kyle Pitts, where Kyle Pitts went to catch it and just kind of bobbled it up in the air, and it wound up being intercepted. It was Michael Penix's only interception of the game. And obviously, defensively, they played very well against the Giants' very lackluster offense. And the Washington Commanders, coming off their victory over Philadelphia, in which they were very sluggish in that first half, couldn't really get anything going to really late in the game. But Jaden Daniels had 5 touchdown passes, but this Commanders offense also turned the ball over 5 times. So I think this one will be a very close, very high-scoring game with these two offenses playing very well. But I think that the Commanders ultimately get the victory here. I think Jaden Daniels is a very good quarterback. It looks like he's going to be the offensive rookie of the year with how he's been playing. So I think that this Commanders offense can do enough, and this Commanders defense should be able to play well enough. Maybe give Michael Penix some fits, maybe get some more turnovers than the Giants did. So I do think the Commanders get the victory here. Now, for your final Monday Night Football game of the year, you have the Detroit Lions, who are 13-2, taking on the San Francisco 49ers, who are 6-9. The Lions coming off of a victory of the Chicago Bears. The 49ers coming off of a loss to the Miami Dolphins. This Lions team, although their defense is very banged up, their offense, even without David Montgomery, did not lose a step. Jahmyr Gibbs came in and played very well, had over 100 rushing yards, another 40-something receiving yards, had a touchdown. Amon-Ra scored a touchdown. They decided to run a fake play in which Jared Goff acted like he was stumbling and fumbling the ball to distract the defense, to get the defense to hesitate for just a second, and he wound up throwing a touchdown pass to Sam Laporta. Like, Ben Johnson is calling some crazy plays, and this Lions offense is just clicking on all cylinders here. Their defense in the second half of that game did struggle a little bit. And this 49ers team is also very banged up. Their left tackle, Trent Williams, is out for the rest of the season. He's not playing their last 2 games. Isaac Guerendo, their third string running back, didn't play this past week, so Patrick Taylor had to be in. Still don't know if he's going to play this week. So I do think that the Detroit Lions get the victory here. I just think that offensively they have too much firepower for this Niners team to keep up with, even though the Lions do have a banged up defense. But I think ultimately they can, maybe even in a shootout, they get the victory here. So those are the teams that I have winning this week. Let me know who you guys think is going to win the games this week. Let me know in the comments which game you're most excited for this week. For me right now, it is definitely the Packers and the Vikings. And on Saturday, it's got to be the Broncos and the Bengals. Those are 2 games that have very big playoff implications. Essentially, if the Broncos beat the Bengals, they win. They're in the playoffs. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time.